So what's your why? I find like I struggle a lot with kind of the balance between ambition, like if work's a little bit slow, I'm like, man, I'm going to hustle. I'm going to get going on work. Or if I'm working too hard and I don't have the life balance, I'm like, oh, I need to slow down on work and have some life balance. Like, what is your why? What's driving you?
So you ask yourself this, well, I don't know if everyone does, but I ask myself this question on a regular basis. And I didn't think this was okay for a long time. But one thing I learned is that it's okay to change your why. I was stuck on a why for a long time that it wasn't superficial per se, but I just was drifting away from it. I don't have a lack of motivation at all, but I didn't realize why like my internal drive wasn't feeling right. Like I just didn't feel like I was in sync for some time until I had a chance to recalibrate. And so something that I try to do to stay somewhat grounded is every few months or so, I will sit down and I will write, I reflect. I don't do a daily journal like a lot of people do. Maybe I should, but I do just random writing. When I take time, it's usually once a quarter, and I'll write down a variety of things that are my whys. So to answer your question, it's no different than anyone else. Like I love my wife. I love my family. I want to take care of them. I want to set myself up in a position where I love what I do, but because I love what I do, I can do things that I love to about them as opposed to the things I don't really want to do all the time. And I know obviously you have to do the things that you don't want to do to get to the place you want to be. But I know winding back around that web, I want to make sure that I have a choice. I want to have a choice to be able to do those things as opposed to a need or a desire. Because then if you need something, you're desperate and it smells like you're desperate, right? Like, not to put this into the real estate industry per se, but let's talk about it. 2021 and 2020 and even portions of 2022, many people in the real estate industry, mortgage, realtor, appraiser, home inspection, basically it was just a funnel. You couldn't stop the business from coming in. You didn't have to really be great at what you did. You could be, but you didn't have to be. And the business would just come nonstop, right? And the moment that stopped, 6 months later, there were a lot of people pretty desperate. And I've seen some wacky things happen in the last year that I'm not comfortable talking about on air, but they shouldn't happen. And it reeks of a need. Like, I need this. If I don't get this deal, like something's going to happen or something bad's going to happen. And that puts people in a bad position. So my personal feelings on, maybe this isn't the answer to your question, is I just don't ever want to be in a place. And part of that's obviously a perception and a feeling, but I don't ever want to be a place where I need something.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah, I agree with that. A few years ago, like I got a lot of autonomy out of my life and a lot of free time and a lot of stillness.
Yeah.
Before kids, obviously, but like I found like I was making the most amount of money and doing the best in my life when I was able to just sit down for 30 minutes and not think about anything else. So I think that's kind of hand in hand to that point, is like, you don't need, like, if you're daily grind and you got to work 50 hours a week, I mean, obviously nothing against anyone that's working 50 hours a week. We've all been there, but like, if you're able to step back and like make space in your life, opportunities will present themselves that you can kind of capitalize on.
I don't know if you want to say unfortunately, but I typically do work 50 hours a week, and sometimes more. Most weeks, not every week, but in a lot of weeks, in a lot of situations, I don't feel upset about that. I don't feel like I have to work, I don't know if I can swear on your show or not, but like, I got to work. Yeah. 50 hours.
Ron Butler was on here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. So it was every 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I didn't feel constantly like I have to do this on a regular basis. And if I ever got to that point, like right away, I catch myself. And I'll shout out my wife, Sarah, on a regular basis, because she catches me all the time now too. And she'll help me out, like correct me. And even though I have this mindset, it's like, you don't have to do this. You get to do this every single day. You get the opportunity. Like, I woke up in the Okanagan and I got to, for my work, call people on a drive along a lake and spend 45 minutes talking to people I love to talk to about things I love to talk to. And then I got to hang out with you guys. I get a chance to meet in this beautiful location. I get to do this every single day. And no, it's not all glamour, right? Like, there's a lot of, work in the office until 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and so forth. But if you continue with that mindset or that thought in everything you do, it just gets a lot easier. So yeah, get back to the original point. It's to avoid the need is to be in a good place. Everybody knows Dan Martell in Kelowna. So if you've ever heard a lot of what he talks about, I know that he talks about things like that as well. And he talks about his McLaren all the time on Instagram. If you've seen it, I've seen it a lot lately. But I think the neat thing is he brings it up all the time. He's like, you don't need a McLaren. I want a McLaren. So it's the mindset of like, Matt, you don't need a boat. But I freaking want one. And there's nothing wrong with that. And speaking of the money thing, that's where people get messed up, is they get on this mindset of, it's bad to want it because, my parents said, why would you want that boat? Why do you want that car? Why do you want that thing? Well, because I worked for it and I want it. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Have you done the right things in your life? Who's to tell you it's not a good thing to do?
Yeah.
We're off track here, but yeah.
No, I think we're right on track. I mean, cool. It is something that there's that bad stigma around money, whether it's like you don't have enough or you have too much. Like, maybe it stems a little bit from the government and media and our parents, but it's like, you should make middle class money. You should have a house, not a lot of investments. You should retire when you're 70. Like you should just be, breaking even. So yeah, I think it's good to be able to help clients and provide some opportunities to break out of that shell.
Yeah, like that most people, if you listen to how they talk, you have a general idea of what they subscribe to. Right. If they're really negative and they're talking about politics and they're talking about the government and Trudeau did this and all that. And sure, yes, these things did happen. We're not going to, say they didn't happen, but you have an idea of how they think and what their mindset is and what they might be into and how much they earn and so forth. Because a lot of people, not everyone, like you want to know what's going on. Don't get me wrong. We are 100% aware of what's happening. Yeah. But a lot of these people are throwing it out and saying, hey, you're the reason that I'm having this problem right now. You're the reason I can't do this all the time. And that's a mindset that basically says like, I'm fucked. I can't do anything because of this fucking guy right here, right? No, you got to take control.
Everyone's a problem but me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when we started the podcast, we used that word wealth. We talked about that word. And that word is such a big, scary, broad word for a lot of people. It's like wealth. They think right away, they think wealth is owning 100 properties or having, like we talked about before, the fancy cars and all the things. And that's obviously not what wealth is. Wealth is partially a state of mind, obviously, but it is it is a real thing. Money is there and there is an abundance of it. It's not easy to get, but it's there and it's available, which is why, back to your point, in every single conversation that I talk to people, we have the conversation not about what's your rate today. It's what are you trying to do? Yeah. What are your goals? Why are you trying to achieve those things? And not to push people into an uncomfortable zone because not everyone wants to talk about that. Maybe they just don't have the answers right away. But the goal is to help uncover that information, to say, hey, you didn't go buy a truck just because you wanted a truck. Maybe you did. Maybe you did. And then we just find out that that's the case. But maybe you got a truck because you need to haul around your tools because you just started a business, or maybe you got to haul that new boat that you just got, or whatever those different types of things are. It's the same thing as someone buying or refinancing or restructuring a mortgage. They're not just doing it. They're doing it because the payments were so high that it was causing a negative impact to their life, which hurt their marriage, which hurt their relationship with their kids. So it's not about the rate. It's about something much bigger, which brings us back to the whole concept of invest in what you know, your education, your real estate, whatever your other investments, so that you can do those different types of things that you want to do, right?
Yeah.